Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio is on the air. I'm Radical Russ, coming to you from beautiful, legal Potland, Oregon. Our phone lines are open at 84-420 radio. That's 844-207-2346. Or you can dial direct at 971-533-7111. That phone line's open 24 hours a day. If we're not on the air, you can always leave a message that we may play back at a future episode. And want to thank the fans out there for listening. A lot of you guys are podcast listeners, and you can't hear me right now because I only podcast the first hour of the Russ Belville Show. And the reason being is it all has to do with licensing. We have licensing through ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC that allows us to play just about anything. So I can take any song I want, any movie clip I want, play it, and we're generally covered under that licensing. But the licensing changes once something's recorded. If I put something on the internet that's in a form that you can download it at your leisure, that becomes a recording, and the ASCAP BMI CSAC doesn't cover that. So for us to have Daily Toker Tunes in Hour 2 and to have other things that I play in Hour 2 that are copywritten, I can't make a podcast of that or also be violating the law with respect to licensing. However, yesterday, as I mentioned in Hour 1, I met a couple of folks, a couple from North Carolina. Neither of them smoke pot, but have been listening to the show since 2011. And the guy said from the first moment I heard it, I was addicted. I was totally addicted to the show. So, like I say, the Russ Belville Show, marijuana is not addictive, but talking about it can be. So, thank you so much. And this guy and his wife, they were fantastic. They came out here. I took them out to food carts so they could get the full Portland experience. And I had some of the best macaroni and cheese I've ever had at one of these food carts, by the way. But it just reminded me, there's a lot of you out there listening as podcast listeners that don't get to listen to Hour 2. This guy, and I can't tell you his name because he works for a company where if they knew he even knew who I was, he'd probably get fired. But this guy has come up with a piece of software, and I think it was on Apple, but a piece of software that auto records stuff for him off the internet, kind of like a DVR would on your cable, right? But it auto records audio for him. So he just records the live 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock Pacific time span. And then he has that downloaded to his iPod player later. So he can actually listen to Hour 1 and Hour 2. Folks, if you want to do that, go for it, man. I can't stop you from doing that. I just can't record it for you. You can record it and play it anytime you like. So if you want to do that, please do. All right. I wanted to get to this story that was on our local news here. Actually, this is out of KGW News. And it has to do with a student from Cleveland High School here in Portland who, for his application to a university in Canada, submitted a documentary on teenage marijuana use. It's called High School, an expose on teenage cannabis use. Let's give a listen to the KGW report about this documentary. Oh, okay. Let's try this again. We got to turn the mics on in order for that stuff to work. Let's try that again. KGW.
Marijuana has now been legal in Oregon for 2 weeks. Of course, for anyone under 21, it's still a crime.
But a new documentary by Portland teenagers getting real about teen pot use. KGW's Nina Melhoff talked with that aspiring filmmaker about his very honest look at marijuana and its effect in schools. Nina?
That's right. Ben Grazel just graduated from Cleveland High School. His new college, Quest University in Canada, asked all applicants to submit an art project on a thesis topic. So Ben made this eye-opening documentary.
No one expected it to get like 100,000 views.
There's no one concerned with being politically correct in this documentary.
I was doing a lot of filming in school.
It's what aspiring filmmaker Ben Grazel was after.
Whipped out my camera. Really, the inspiration came just from seeing a lot of kids show up to school high.
For 2 months, he followed friends and classmates to parties, lunch periods, and after school with his camera, asking questions about pot.
There was honestly no hesitation. I think that's another reason why the project was successful. It really is a candid look at the subculture of, underage use. People had some pride in it. They wanted to they thought it was funny. They wanted to get high in front of the camera.
Smoke about 3 times a day.
Some talked about smoking in the morning, the way people need coffee to wake up, getting high before class, or skipping entirely just to get stoned. Then there were the brutally honest interviews with teachers.
I can't even have a conversation with some of my kids because they're so high. And you can't do anything about it because there's no way to prove it unless it's on them. And, the eyes glazed over, the slow, slurred speech, the lack of motivation in the classroom.
Grazel learned a lot through the process. It's not just a Cleveland issue. Pot use in developing teenage brains does cause damage, and parents need to get involved in a way that will actually resonate with their kids.
As a parent, you can't really control your kid and say, don't smoke marijuana. That's a little unrealistic at this point. I think you just need to emphasize responsible use, not coming to school high, not waking up and doing it first thing in the morning, not smoking every day.
Last week, Ben was asked
420
to take the film
Radio,
off
your
YouTube
ticket
by
to
a student
Seattle
who was
Hemp
worried
Fest.
that it would affect a college.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. 5 of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show.
.420 Radio is brought to you by Sacred Serum, who is focused on creating elegant and sophisticated cannabis solutions through its line of dispensers and vaporizers that come preloaded with the world's finest cannabis concentrate. Sacred Serum's concentrate is made on pharmaceutical-grade supercritical CO2 extraction machines that use absolutely no butane or other toxic chemicals. The Vesica, the company's innovative new way to dab and frost, is now available in dispensaries across California. Sacred Serum, elegance and sophistication concentrated.
Big Daddy thinks.
What's happening? Big Daddy here, and I want you cool cats to come and chill over at my pad, the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh yeah.
We'll be grooving every Thursday night, right here on 420 Radio. Funky Roller Ring.
What can I do when you got me going?
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
Sweet dreams of you.
Welcome back, everyone. That's music from Diffusion UK. Euphoria, Sweet Dreams of You, featuring Julia Dowler. Some of the music that we play on Electric Tuesdays, and you can get a whole hour of non-stop electronic music mix tonight at 8 p.m. on Electric Bob's Boogaloo. For a preview, stay tuned at 20 after. We'll have our 420 break. We'll hear some new Electric Tuesday music with Electric Bob DJing straight out of Phoenix, Arizona. All right, so returning to the news, before we took the break, I was trying to play that piece on the Oregon high school student who made the documentary about teenage pot use and kind of farged it up just a little bit. Sorry about that. But the main point I got out of that I wanted to reemphasize is how the filmmaker talked about how it wasn't really realistic to present a just say no message to the youth, that the best effort would be put toward encouraging responsible use, that you don't want to have kids getting high before they go to class, being stoned in school. And if that were the message being given to kids, I think we'd all be better off for it. I think it's ridiculously naive to think that young people aren't going to experiment with marijuana. But as we learned earlier this week, and some of the studies are starting to show, that the reason a kid tries to use marijuana can have a great deal of influence on whether or not he develops substance abuse issues in the future. They found the kids that were trying marijuana as an experiment had different results than kids that were trying it to relieve anxiety, or kids that were trying to use it as an escape from some terrible circumstance or situation they're living through. So if we can be more honest with the youth of America and let them know that you're not a terrible criminal for using marijuana, you don't need to be shunned, you don't need to be kicked out of extracurriculars and so forth, but you do need to be responsible about it. And you do need to make sure you're taking care of your duties at school, with your parents, your chores, whatever else it might be, your workplace if you've got a job as a teenager. I always like to say to teens that you have to be able to handle reality before you start altering reality. I also like to tell teens that you're already high. I know when I was a teenage boy, my brain was so full of testosterone that I was already higher than I'll ever be ever again through chemical means. So there's no need to be adding exochemicals to this mix, right? You got enough endochemicals, hormones and stuff running around in your brain going through puberty. There's no need to have to enhance that. On the other hand, I understand that being a teenager can be very stressful socially and societally, can be a very stressful time. And if some of these kids are relieving their stress through a responsible after school, got my homework done, doing my job, maintaining my responsibilities sort of way, then I think that's far better than them being prescribed all sorts of benzos or other sorts of mood-altering drugs from a doctor. It's certainly better than them letting off steam with, keg stands and chugging contests and beer pong. We need to stop recoiling from the idea of teenagers smoking pot. The statistics have shown us for years and years and years that is the demographic most likely to be smoking pot the most often. Now, this is not an encouragement for kids to go out and smoke pot. What little damage we do find from heavy continued marijuana use does occur among people under the age of 18. It occurs amongst young people. That said, that's heavy, chronic, irresponsible use we're talking about. Showing up to class stoned, waking, baking, and going to school high all day and skipping classes to get high. That's the kind of irresponsible use that is going to lead to the problems that adolescents might have with marijuana. But if you got a kid who's a straight A student, who's on the chess club and plays basketball and does well in the community and has a part-time job, and that kid smokes pot on the weekend, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think it's something that we want to punish that kid severely over. It's a matter for that kid and that kid's parents to be dealing with, not law enforcement, not rehabs. People are going to have to understand as we move forward that just like when it comes to drinking or other drugs, there's responsible use and irresponsible use. And yes, marijuana is going to remain illegal for people under the age of 21 for some time. It's going to take a long time before the politics change on that. But at least if we can differentiate between the kids who are clearly abusing marijuana and definitely need some sort of school or parental intervention on it versus the kids who just happen to smoke some pot every now and then, I think we'll all be better off. Fewer kids will end up losing their futures over pot tickets and arrests, and everybody will be healthier for it. Now, I also wanted to talk briefly about High Times and the Cannabis Cup. As you know from earlier reports, we were supposed to have a Cannabis Cup here in 2 weeks here in Portland, Oregon. Well, High Times has been unable to find a suitable Portland venue. The problem is the Oregon Liquor Control Commission won't allow cannabis consumption at venues that hold liquor licenses. So bars, restaurants, any venue that's authorized to serve alcohol can't allow marijuana consumption. This is the greatest irony of marijuana legalization in the Pacific Northwest. We've got the best laws on the planet. We are the only multiple jurisdiction area in the world that has marijuana legalization. 2 states sharing a almost 400 mile border that both have legal recreational marijuana, and yet High Times can't find a place to hold a cup in Seattle or in Portland because both states have come up with these insane regulations that say alcohol and marijuana can never mix. A place that has an alcohol license can never allow a pot event to happen where there's consumption, even if no alcohol will be sold at that time at the event. So, for example, if they wanted to go out to the Portland Expo Center and have the High Times Cannabis Cup, because there's contractors at the Expo Center who sell alcohol there during other events, High Times can't have the Cannabis Cup there. Pretty much, High Times is limited now to finding some big-ass open field or parking lot to be able to hold the Cannabis Cup, because any place large enough to be able to handle it has a liquor license. This is a major problem, and it's something that those of us in Portland Normal will be fighting over the next couple of years. It's great that we've gotten marijuana legalized, but I cannot understand for the life of me why we can have the Waterfront Blues Fest for 4 days in the middle of the downtown's signature waterfront park with beer sales from end to end. Why can we have that in a park, but we can't have a marijuana event in a building for adults only, where IDs are checked and no kids will be able to get into? You know how many kids I saw at the waterfront during the Blues Fest? Amongst all those adults who are drinking beer after beer after beer? How many kids get their first taste of alcohol from such an event when some parent isn't watching, or the kid wanders off on his own and finds some half-drunk beer there? That's never going to happen at our events, but we can't have them? It's an insane double standard.
wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Oh, but you can sniff glue. There's no law against public glue sniffing. You can actually take a tube of glue to the park, sit under a tree and sniff it. No law against it. But if you're smoking a joint, you're going to get a ticket or a fine. All right, you stoners, we legalized it. Now get back in your closets where we don't have to look at you. Happy 420. 420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups. The fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com. Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool. Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back. Time for our Electric Tuesday Daily Toker Tunes. Get us amped and energized with Electric Bob, who's calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing good. My dab's off on my pants, but hey, I really can't complain. At least I have some.
You have dabs on your pants?
Well, yeah, I was taking one and it was too big, so I was like trying to save it and put it in front of the fan so it'll cool down, but the rest of it plopped down on my pants.
I can just imagine people listening to us going, "Aw, your dabs are too big. Aw."
Exactly. Well, hey, I said at least I have dabs. So.
That's right. At least you have some dabs.
At least I'm self-aware.
Yeah, and Arizona, you're a medical card holder, so you're not facing any problems for having those, right? Didn't they come up with a decision on concentrates recently in Arizona?
It was last year, yeah, because there was a young child who they were trying to make it so it's illegal, but the CBD oil and stuff like that, it all falls under the same.
That's fantastic news. And I know Arizona's got at least two initiatives out there. I think I was reading somewhere that there's like 6 marijuana-related bills or initiatives that are out there. Are there some medical things going on, too?
I haven't heard much about medical. I've been just following the straight legalization. I was just reading an article about it. MPP, they have 35,000 and they need 115 more thousand to get it on the ballot. So I'm guessing we're definitely going to get it on the ballot.
Right on. Well, we're looking forward to legalization in 2016 in Arizona, one of the toughest places to be a marijuana consumer. I mean, you can get a felony in Arizona for any amount. Is that still true?
Yeah, you can get a felony for a fee, a stem. It all matters on the cop's discretion.
Yeah, and usually their discretion is to bust you.
Well, it depends. I've been caught smoking once, and the cop told me to put it out and go away.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, and I was with two of my friends, and the cop was like, "I have better things to worry about." So I'm thinking they probably don't like the law either because it ties them up.
Yeah, it takes them away from what they'd rather be doing, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're hoping for the best for you. And, of course, tonight at 8 p.m., we've got another edition of the Electric Bob's Boogaloo. What's on tap for tonight?
I haven't put up a mix yet. I'm still downloading, still putting something together for it. I'm going to have it uploaded in like an hour or so. I'm thinking it's going to be like, because I just started a brand new label with a buddy of mine in L.A., so I'm putting together this, it's this new music called Footwork. It's out of Chicago. So I'm putting together like a mix like that because I'm running a new label called Broken Souls.
Oh, all right. Well, looking forward to that. We'll see what you get posted later on tonight. And then, of course, we've got our Electric Tuesday Daily Toker Tune coming up. What do you got on tap for us here?
This is Peter Williams. I think he's out of L.A., but this is a really good tune. This is the kind of sound I'm going to go for with my new label. This is, I was on, there's a website called SoundCloud and just looking for new music and just came upon this gem. I've been vibing to this tune all day. I love it.
Okay, Peter Williams, what's the name of the tune?
It's Caromo.
Caromo. All right, let's get it on. Thanks, Bob. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you talk to you and I'm sorry. Oh, I don't wanna wait until it's done. Tell myself I'll talk to you and I'm sorry. Oh, I don't wanna wait until it's done. Tell myself I'll
420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Oh man, I really dig this tune. You should really check out this groove.
Cool. Groovy.
Hey, check out more deep cuts like this on my show, Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, every Thursday night on 420 Radio. Funky Roller Rink.
Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out lushledlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
Man is a singular creature. He has a set of gifts which make him unique among the animals, so that, unlike them, he is not a figure in the landscape. He is the shape of the landscape.
We are all children of Africa. Children of Africa. They say this is where it all began. This is where it all began.
In a parched African landscape, man first put his foot to the ground, to the ground, to the ground, to the ground.
Africa was our only home for tens of thousands of years, until a small handful of people made their way. Ocean of Africa.
These beings with soaring imagination. Eventually.
Welcome back, everybody. That's Children of Africa, the story of us. That comes to you from symphonyofscience.com. The auto-tuned versions of famous scientists talking about science. They love science here at 420 Radio. Hey, let's go up to the Great White North for a second. I'm talking about the wonderful state of Alaska, where I had the joy of visiting just a couple of months ago for the first time ever. Went to Anchorage for the Northwest Cannabis Classic. They'll be making their way, the folks behind the Northwest Cannabis Classic will be making their way to Tacoma, Washington. I'll be a part of that Cannabis Classic. That is taking place pretty soon. Let me see if I can find it. Coming up on my events calendar as well, July 29th and 30th, that's a Thursday, I will be at the Cannabis Creative Conference at the Expo Center in Portland, Oregon, boothing with Portland NORML, and also a part of a panel discussing the effects of House Bill 3400 on Oregon's legalization. Then, coming up in August, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, we will be at Seattle Hemp Fest, the world's largest marijuana protestival. We'll get all sorts of interviews there for you. Also, I'll be speaking probably numerous times on multiple stages. We'll record that and bring it back to you as well. Then that Northwest Cannabis Classic I was mentioning, that comes to Tacoma, Washington on August 28th and 29th. So we got 3 major events coming up for 420 Radio, the Russ Belville Show, and Portland NORML. Check out our schedule at 420radio.org/schedule for more details. Now, speaking of Alaska, there is some news coming out of Alaska, particularly in the city of Anchorage. A new ordinance is being proposed to require marijuana that is in transit to be stored in the trunk of your car. It's an ordinance that would expand the open container laws that currently apply to alcohol to apply them to cannabis. Basically, what it means is, open container laws are those laws that say you can't have an open beer or an open bottle of whiskey in the passenger compartment of a car, mainly to keep the driver from being able to drink while he drives. Well, the same idea is now being proposed for marijuana. But the problem with marijuana is, what is an open container of marijuana? Any baggie that you might have marijuana in can be quickly closed, and you'd never know whether it had been opened or closed. And since people can cultivate their own plants and harvest their own marijuana, you can't make it dependent on the packaging from a store, for example, to be unopened, because people will be harvesting their own marijuana. They might keep it in a brown paper bag for all you know. So they believe in Anchorage that it will be easier to enforce an open container law if you just force everyone to keep the marijuana in the trunk. Now, there's some exceptions to this. For example, if you got a station wagon or a hatchback or, a smart car, any vehicle that doesn't have a trunk. And by the way, if you have a smart car in Alaska, good luck. But if you have one of those cars that doesn't have a trunk, it could be stored behind the last upright seat. So you'd have to put it all the way in the back. And it would allow you to transport marijuana on your motorcycle, because I guess they figure you can't keep the joint lit when you're on a motorcycle, right? And if you're a passenger in a motor vehicle that is a hired vehicle with a capacity of 12 or more persons, right? So like if you get up on a charter bus, you can keep the marijuana on you. You don't have to put it in the trunk of the charter bus. And when it comes to limousines, if you're riding in a licensed limousine, you could carry your marijuana as long as the windows are tinted and the partition between the driver and the passengers is closed. But the ordinance is silent on whether marijuana, like alcohol, could be consumed inside the limousine. Now, the whole thing about tinted windows and all that, once again, that's this marijuana must not be seen motivation that we're seeing out of so many of these regulators these days. All right, you're legal, you stoners, but by God, we don't want to see you. Right? It's still the lingering after effects of bigotry and stereotyping. And that's going to take a while for the culture to change. But to me, evaluating this kind of ordinance comes down to evaluating what we do with alcohol. So in the case of alcohol, if you can drink alcohol in a tinted windowed limousine, you should be able to smoke marijuana in a tinted windowed limousine. If you're allowed to have your unopened 12-pack in the front seat of the car, you should be able to have your store-bought sealed marijuana in the front seat of your car. But I do give them some leeway on this with the whole idea of how would you track an open container if it's a baggie? And the only way you could is to be able to put it in the trunk. And I've long said, treat marijuana like alcohol is fine with me as long as we get equal treatment with beer drinkers. So I don't see having to carry your loose marijuana, not in a store sealed package, in the trunk as being a terribly odious requirement. It doesn't say what the punishment would be for this, but if it's the same sort of punishment you'd have for having an open container of alcohol, that would be fair as well. But I also think if that's going to be the case, if we can't have an open container of loose marijuana that we grew ourselves, then neither can beer drinkers have a openable growler of alcohol. If you don't know what a growler is, it's like a big jug. They're very popular here in Oregon that you can take to these brew pubs and they will refill your jug of beer, right? And it's just got a cap you can take off and put on. then that needs to be stored in the trunk too, right? So if you want to make this law, you want to make this work, then any factory sealed container, like a closed can of beer or a capped bottle of beer where the cap is not replaceable, right? Once the cap's off, it's off. Once the pull tab's pulled on the beer, it's pulled. If you've got a similar container for marijuana, a factory sealed, that you have to rip the top of it and then it's openable, those containers should be allowed in the glove compartment, the front seat, whatever. And any resealable container, whether it be for cannabis or alcohol, should have to go in the trunk. That is only fair.
Elitist. Just like any other dishwashing, burger flipping, public school educated, self-employed, bar band, musician, National Guardsman, he's Radical Russ.
All right, we got one more segment here for hour 2. Coming up, we're going to talk about Israel. Israel is actually talking about cannabis legalization, and it's got some of the members of the Knesset very upset. We'll bring that story to you in just a second. And Washington State has officially banned private cannabis clubs. When will these people learn? Making us legal isn't enough. You can't insist that we hide in our houses to use our legal product.
.420 Radio. Tune in, turn on, get highly educated.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana. Less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of The Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful. But we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
That's Charlie Chaplin with some great guitar work from Parliament Funkadelic in the background. That's Great Dictator, speech from a movie that he had done. Plays just as well today as it did back then. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio on 420radio.org, reminding you that we are listener-supported, independent marijuana media, and to keep us on this, I was going to say on the air, but it's on the live stream, I guess. To keep us going, we need your support. You can become a VIP member of 420 Radio for as little as $4.20 a month. Visit 420radio.org/donate. And you can make a one-time donation or sign up for the monthly deduction. It could be $4.20 a month, could be $9.99 a month, could be $19.99 a month. A few people doing that one. I've even got a few people that have given more than that. And without you guys, we couldn't afford the equipment, the bandwidth, the time. This couldn't be my full-time job. And this is indeed my full-time job. All I do from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed is research, write, analyze marijuana policy, not just in my home state of Oregon, not just my home region of the Northwest, not just in the United States, but worldwide. I'm keeping track of what's going on for you. So if you can give a little, I'd really, really appreciate that. Just sign on at 420radio.org/donate. And if you're an advertiser, we're taking all sorts of advertising and sponsorship packages here at 420 Radio. We've got one of the most influential listener bases in all of marijuana podcasting. I mean, if you want to sell some bongs, you might want to advertise on, Be Real or Tommy Chong's podcast or something. But if you want to advertise to the intelligent cannabis consumers out there, the true aficionados, the people who are running the activist organizations, who are forming the cannabis businesses, and who are the leaders in the marijuana movement, this is the place to put your advertising dollars. I mean, like I was saying just yesterday, a couple who live 2,500, 3,000 miles away from me made it a point to visit the 420 Radio studios because they're such devoted listeners to the show. So if you'd like to get your advertising on 420 Radio, it can be just an audio ad that we play during the show, but it can also be sponsorship of some of the events we do. And by the end of this year, we will have done over 20 nationwide marijuana-related events. You could have your sponsorship of our booth and get your name out there to all the people at the High Times Cannabis Cup, the Northwest Cannabis Classic, the Seattle Hemp Fest, the various hemp expos and presentations and so forth. Hit us up at 420radio.org/advertise if you're interested. And speaking of advertisers, big thanks to Herbie Seeds, who have signed on for another 1-year contract with 420radio.org. And big thanks to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference taking place September 12th and 13th. They've just signed up for a sponsorship package and given us a booth at the event. So another event we'll be attending and bringing you the interviews and information from those events right here on 420radio.org. All right, let's take a look around the world. There's all sorts of interesting news going on, and this comes to us from Radio New Zealand International, talking about how a police sergeant and 2 officers were fired over marijuana, or as they call it in New Zealand properly, cannabis. As it turned out, there was a senior police officer, a police sergeant, he was a supervisor, over these 2 officers, or as they call them there this is in Samoa, by the way, not New Zealand. It comes from the New Zealand radio, but this is a story out of Samoa, the U.S. territory, where 2 officers under the supervision of this sergeant responded to a family commotion. The 2 officers responded, found 2 cannabis joints on one of the family members. One officer told the other officer not to take the 2 joints back to the police post and instead flushed the 2 joints down the toilet. Because of this action, the police sergeant lost his job, was convicted of official corruption, and sentenced to 5 months in jail. The 2 police officers have been discharged without conviction after pleading guilty to charges of being an accessory after the fact and conspiracy to defeat the cause of justice. The Chief Justice said their actions had set a bad example and painted a bad public image of the police. In whose eyes? Not the cannabis consumers of Samoa. I think the cannabis consumers of Samoa would be quite pleased that the officers showed some discretion and restraint and merely confiscated 2 joints and flushed them down the toilet. It's just amazing that all over the world, people are still being punished for the slightest amounts of marijuana. In another story internationally, the Knesset, which is the Congress or the Parliament of Israel, it's reported in the Jerusalem Post that certain members of the Knesset are boycotting a meeting on cannabis legalization. A member of the Greenleaf Party says that 13,000 people are arrested for cannabis in Israel every year, and most members of the Knesset Committee on Drug and Alcohol Abuse boycotted a meeting today on progressive cannabis policies in protest against panel chairwoman Tamar Zandberg being pro-legalization. One of the members of Knesset, Eli Cohen, wrote a letter to Zandberg in the name of 6 of the committee's 10 members, saying they would not attend in protest of her, quote, turning the committee into a caucus to promote cannabis instead of the goal for which the committee was formed, to fight drug abuse and drug-related crimes, rehabilitation of users, and public campaigns to prevent drug and alcohol abuse in general, especially among the youth. Israel is not Colorado yet, and even if you want to promote your personal agenda to legalize soft drugs, it would be better if you formed a caucus for it. Cohen said that as a father of 4, he cannot take part in meetings meant to legalize drugs, and most of the members of the committee agreed with him. So the Committee on Drug and Alcohol Abuse, this Israeli committee sounds a lot like our own National Institutes of Drug Abuse, NIDA. They always complain, well, our mission is to discover, drug abuse. Our mission is abuse of marijuana. We're not in this to figure out what's good about marijuana. And now we've got a majority of this committee boycotting a meeting that even dares to promote the idea that maybe The solution to the drug abuse with respect to marijuana is legalizing it. If your goal is to reduce drug abuse, to reduce the abuse of marijuana, you should be open to all potential policy solutions for that. By doing this boycott, these members of Knesset are not showing that they're against marijuana abuse. They're showing that they're against marijuana legalization. They're not against a particular symptom or a particular problem. They're against a particular policy solution for that problem. These members of Knesset should know better. Israel is one of the leading countries, in fact, probably the leading country on marijuana research, especially in medical marijuana. They should know better than this, but they're just standing on a principle to be anti-legalization, regardless of the facts of the matter or whether that could actually help with with what they're charged with fighting, drug abuse. And from what we found so far, when you legalize access to medical cannabis, there's less abuse of prescription pills. Right there, you've already started to reduce drug abuse. We'll soon see in the legal states a reduction in alcohol-related problems, thanks to people choosing a safer alternative. So the Israeli Knesset, just a lot like members of our own Congress, way behind the times on marijuana. And a final story out of Washington State. Private cannabis clubs are now illegal in Washington. State lawmakers outlawed the establishment of such clubs, places where people could go to legally use marijuana, and the ban caught legal pot advocates by surprise. It was House Bill 2136 that changed the tax on marijuana to a single 37% point of sale tax and loosened the restrictions on the location of pot businesses. But there was an additional amendment, Section 1401, that prohibited private pot clubs. And Seattle City Attorney Pete Holmes says it won't just be illegal to set up such businesses, quote, it makes it a felony to actually operate a business like this. Frankly, it's a stupid provision, and I think that it's overkill. Of course, Holmes had been working on an ordinance for the city of Seattle that would have licensed marijuana clubs, recognizing that without marijuana clubs, you have more public use of marijuana citations that happen. But now that Seattle City ordinance is dead in the water because the entire state has made it a felony to run a pot club. It's a long way from legalization to equalization. There's still a lot to fight for. And the right for us to be able to gather together, enjoying our rights of free assembly as guaranteed in our Constitution, are still at risk so long as marijuana laws make us legal but force us to remain in the closet. I won't stop until that changes, and I hope you won't either. That's all the time we got. Thanks for joining us. From Legal Potland, Oregon, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it,